Well, welcome back. Legs are out, shorts are on, t-shirts on, mid-June, sun is blazing. We couldn't wish for better weather to do what I want to be doing today, and that's bringing you to the local lawn farm fishery in Cambridgeshire to target the bigger carp in the lake with a method feeder. So before we start today's session, let me just go through all the bait that we're going to use for today and my thought process behind it. The method feeder is a very easy method to fish. It shouldn't be complicated, and that involves a very simple bait table. It's kind of been made even simplified because the fact that this fishery doesn't allow boilies and wafters, so it's very much a pellet-based bait table. And what I'm going to do is just basically show you a few ways I prepare the pellets for today, and obviously just go through my bait choices. Very simple. First thing, I've got some 6mm, they're hard pellets, and what I've done is I've soaked those overnight. And the reason I've done that is because now the water temperatures have risen to the upper temperatures that they are now, is I've just put those in to stop the breakdown process so it's slower. And the good thing about that is they just remain a bit tougher for longer, so they don't attract those smaller fish. And the idea of those is I've actually got a catapult. I'm just going to catapult those into the margin on one of the lines, but we'll go through the lines during the video. I've put some krill oil, some Dynamite Baits krill oil on those, and I've just give them a nice liberal squirt. And what that does is that'll just soak in, and as you can see, the ones that I've done through the night, because I've just added a little bit for now's purpose, but they've actually soaked through to the pellet, which is great. That's exactly how I want them. So that's the pellet I'll feed in the edge. I've got hook pellets, again oily pellets, which are halibut pellets. They're 8mm halibut pellets. And like I said, I'm using a big pellet today. I don't need many small pellets for that because I'm looking to target the legs bigger carp. They're dark, they stand out against what I'm going to use is the F1 Sweet pellets. As you can see, they stand out well. So that's my bait choice. And I've also got, to match up with the F1 Sweet pellets, I've got some 8mm F1 Sweet hard pellets as well. I haven't put oil on those pellets because I found when you're putting them in a band, they do tend to slip the band if you put oil on them. So I've only put the oil on the 6mm pellets that I'm actually going to feed through the catapult. I've also got a little tip here. I like to keep some hard pellets back, some small hard pellets, and these are 3mm halibut pellets, and I've oiled those as well. So I've actually done the same as I've done to the 6mm, and what I'm going to do is when I actually put the method feeder, so I'll just grab a good handful of those for you to show you. So if you imagine that's the method feeder, I'm just going to mix a few of those in with, and they're going to remain hard and dry, and they're just going to stay, because these will be softened. You have to keep it soft on the method feeder, and the small 3mm hard halibut pellets are almost trying to emulate what I'm going to have on the hook. But I want to keep those hard because I want some hard baits on the bottom that the small fish won't bother me with, and they'll just stay as a pellet for longer. And of course, just another added attractor on there. Now, I'm just going to show you how I prepare my micro pellets. Very, very simple. I've got F1 Sweet, Dynamite Bait F1 Sweet, and I'm just going to pour just to cover them with water. So you just keep pouring the water until they're totally covered. That's perfect. And I use the same tub to measure. So as you can see now, they're totally immersed in water. So what I'll do is I'll keep them in there for about 30 to 40 seconds, that's all. And then I've got a drainer, which they're actually in, and I'm just gonna lift them out the drainer, and then I'll put them into there to drain off any excess water. By the time I'm ready to sit on my box, they'll actually be ready to fish with and mould on the pellet. And one little tip I'm gonna show you, just as I finish up on the actual bait itself, is always have, in this kind of weather with the sun shining and warm temperatures, always have a lid on somewhere where you want to put your micro pellets, because I'll put them in a bucket, shake them around to separate them, get a bit of air through them. I don't want them clogging up on the feeder. And then I'm going to transfer them from the bucket into a tub. I use this Guru tub, it's fantastic. I'll just put the pellets in there, and that's what I'll be using for my feeder. I'll add those to the mix. I'll put the lid on when I'm not using them, and that keeps them from drying out. So that's the bait for today's session. Let's get on the box and get started. So before I start today, before I start fishing, I just want to go through a few reasons why I've actually picked this swim today. And the main reason is because it's so warm, a lot of the fish are up on the top, but this is a video about method fishing, so you can't fish off the top with a method. So what I'm looking at doing is I've picked a swim where I've basically picked, obviously, an island. There's a channel in the island, which is shallower water if I need to go there. I've got a nice mud bank opposite that I can target as well, where I know I've chucked a bomb around and I know it's only about 2 to 3 feet deep maximum. It's fairly flat as well, which is nice. So I've got two really nice targets to the island to fish to. I've also got a margin swim, which is about 8 meters along the bank. There's some reeds. It just bends around here, which makes it ideal. I can see the bank, I can tuck my feeder in there. And as you know, the big carp in these lakes do tend to come into the edges. So that's on the island and in the edge of them, well, basically in the margin. So that's really the reason for my swim choice today. Anyone who knows this lake knows this isn't necessarily the best swim, but for me, it's got 3 really nice target areas when the weather and the water is that warm. So I've just taken my first cast. Now the first line I've chosen was just to the right of the channel opposite. There's a bit of a mud bank there. It really plumbs up lovely. I think the bank's eroded and it's kind of flat, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that kind of 2.5 foot of water against the island. It's a very deep lake, this one. It's 10 feet deep, and the level is still, I mean, they keep the lake topped up really well. It's still kind of winter level. So it's a good 9-10 feet in front of me, and then obviously it shelves up to the margins. But I've just had my first cast now, so I'm just going to get a little bit of bait in. I don't want to go straight into the channel, because the one thing about that channel opposite, if you do hook carp, what they tend to do is they tend to shoot through the channel, and these fish in here are quite big. So I don't really want to go straight to the channel unless I have to. So let's hope we get some indications fairly soon and the fish kind of get onto the bait. So my method choice for today, weight-wise, is probably slightly bigger than normal. I mean, that's about, what, 22, 23 metres across to the island over there. And the method I've actually chosen today, and I will go through the tackle and the setup, you know, later on in the video. But what I've done is I've chosen a 30 gram. Some people think that's quite heavy for a 22, 23 metre cast. But like I said, that bank's eroded over there. And these fish, these are carp that I'm fishing for. They do tend to come into that shallow water and move the feeder, and as you know, we don't want to move the feeder, we want the bait to stay on the feeder and the fish to feed off it. So I've chosen 30 gram, not because of casting, more because where I'm casting to. So it's going to sit nice and flat because it is a bit weightier. Wherever I choose against the island, maybe the plateau against the mud line that I've already chosen, or even down in this margin. So it's a 30 gram, just a standard method, not hybrid feeder, because I want the fish to come in fairly quickly, feed off it, and then obviously hopefully get that bite very quickly. So yeah, so that's the reason. So it's not for casting purposes so much, even though it does make life much easier. It's very still today as well, so it's very easy to cast to the island. It's more because of the way I want the feeder to act on the bottom. So there's a lot more to method feeder fishing than just picking any method up. The size of the method is a slightly smaller size, and the reason for that is because I don't want to make too much disturbance in amongst feeding fish in shallow water. So like I said, I'll go through the setup and how I set this up through the video, but just wanted to touch on that point because it is quite an important point. On a method, and you just, you know, normally you don't do an awful lot other than cast a method in, unless you're feeding big pellets in open water and you're looking to catch them up and down and maybe, you know, establish an area. What I'm doing, obviously, because the lake's got an island and I'm looking to catch carp in the edge as well, all the while I'm just putting sort of 10 6mm pellets down that margin. And hopefully, as the day goes on, I'll keep my eyes open and see if there's any swirling fish, any reeds knocking, any colouring of the water where the fish are kicking up at the bottom, and then hopefully gives me another option of maybe catching a real big munter down there. Oh, at last. It's been so frustrating watching those fish cruising in front of me. Obviously, if you could fish shallow or pellet waggler off the top, it'd be great, but I've got 2 nice plateaus over there, and they'll definitely come and feed off the top of them. And this is it, a 40 minutes, and that's the first carp anyway. It's only a small one, but still. Ducks aren't helping there. It's only 18 inches deep and they're diving for my bait. Oh, it's not a bad fish. Not a bad fish at all. Looks about 6-7 pound, I'd say. Normally when you fish in that channel, the fish will scream through it, but this one managed to swim straight out, which was good. because even at this size they build up a head of steam and you can easily lose them through the channel. That's why I don't fish elasticated feeders today. Here we go. At last, one in the net. Nice fish, probably £7. Ideally, we'd like to catch one. Double figures would be nice, because that's kind of an average fish for this lake. So I'm kind of looking for fish to be, hopefully to catch fish. I know beggars can't be choosers on a day which is this hot and with so many cruising fish, but £7 a nice start, but I'm not going to settle on that. Well, second one is starting to work now. It's starting to. I just started firing a few 8mm pellets into the front of that channel, and that's definitely given us a bit more activity. I probably had about 4 or 5 tension a barbel, but obviously that's not what we've come for today. And literally just by feeding 6, 7, 8mm pellets, hard pellets, the F1 sweet, and I've switched to F1 sweet as well from the halibut pellet, and that seems to have done the trick. I think it's just the brighter colour, because it's probably kicked up the mud over there. Another nice fish. Getting probably about £6. But not the ones we want. We want those bigger ones. I'm going to be picky. Nice fish all the same. Right, we're going to put this one back because we've got one bigger in the net. And ideally we want a couple of nice double figure fish. So we won't keep them on a warm day like this. We don't want to keep them in the net, so we'll just be picky, because I'm confident that I'm doing it right, and I've just got to prove it, that there's a way of catching these bigger fish, which I know will come. Probably another £7, £8 fish, that one. So we're slowly getting there to our target of catching at least, just put that drag on gentle, not too much. Keep that drag on. I don't want to be flat rodded on a carp under my feet at this size. Some anglers play off the handle, off the reel, but you hook a fish this big and it darts off, and that can break you. And not only can it break you, but you can also wrap your knuckles as well. Lovely fish. Look at that one. He's a nice common. There you go. Look at that. It's a lovely fish, that one. Probably about another £8. Yeah, easy £8. He's a nice fish. I'm going to put him back as well, because he's probably similar size to what we've already got. So I'm going to place him back on a warm day. So this is how I load the method feeder. I always use a method mould. I just like the even spread of pellet it gives you. You can gauge how many pellets you're putting around the feeder. It's always even. The even compression of the pellet instead of just doing it all around with your hand. So what I'm going to do is I put the pellet in first. So you put your hook bait and your hair rig basically into the mould. I'm going to do this from a height so you can see it. Just drop the pellets in. Just tidy those up. A few more to get to the top. And then just pat it down with my finger. To always keep the hook off the bottom. So, sorry, the line coming off the gap of the bottom of the mould. And then what I'm going to do, so you can see, is you just gently push the mould down into the pellets like that with your 2 thumbs, so it's flush to the mould. And then I'm just going to pop that out like that. And there you can see you've got a nicely moulded method feeder. Now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to actually double skin this. So the pellet you can see is at the top. I'm just going to put a few more pellets on. I'm just going to pop that back in, squeeze it back down. Again, I'm going to turn it around so you can see. Pop that in, squeeze it out, And there you go, you've got a double skinned method feeder. Very aerodynamic, no pellets are going to come off. It's quite tightly packed because it's shallow and there's a lot of line bites with those fish cruising through, but that's how I load the method feeder. It's a 5th carp I've had, probably the smallest fish, probably about £4, but I'm having to go further and further into that channel, which is not really what I want to do, because even a fish of this size, which is relatively small at £4 for here, it did take me right through, but I managed to steer it straight out with proper gear on. But seems to be the way, is to feed a few 8mm, not many, just 4 or 5, get a fish there over the top of that method, and then just be patient, and then it just rips round. Yeah, it's probably about £4 or £5. Another one we're going to put back until we get that elusive double. The 5 carp's nice because we started really slowly until I worked out that it was better just to ping a few 8mm pellets over the top. I was catching tench and had a barbel, and some of the tench have really grown on, because I remember when they put them in a couple of years ago, they were only little stockfish. So there'll be some good sport here to be had for tench fishing as well in the near future. But let's see if we can get that big one. The thing with the island fish, sometimes the island fish are smaller. The margin fish tend to be the bigger fish, or if you can fish for them off the top. But obviously I'm not going to be able to fish them off the top today. Right in. Well, it's been quite tough, but this is our 7th, 8th fish. Like I said, I put most of them back. They're sort of 5, 6, £7 fish. I'm still looking for that elusive double, and this feels the biggest fish so far today, so I'm hoping this is a double figure fish. Just persevering, pinging 8mm pellets. It's so warm today, there's so many fish on the top, and I'd say this looks like our double. Be nice if it was a double figure fish, because it's so warm. I'd like to achieve it as soon as possible. So we've probably had 50, £60 of fish for that many fish, but that's a beautiful long common. And I'm probably going to weigh that. We've got scales. The fishery have let me use some scales today. And like I said, we're not retaining fish today, so we might just retain 1 or 2 at the end, the bigger fish. Just to show you what can be achieved with, like I said, on a day where it's more akin to fishing off the surface rather than on the bottom. But like I said, I'm going in a channel that's quite shallow. It's only 18 inches, 2 foot deep. But that looks every bit as a double. Look at that common cracker. Yes, we got him. Let's pull him round. Oh yeah, that's probably near a £12 that. Whoa, size of that. Here you go, look at that for a common. Every bit a double. Just long fish. Took me to the other side of that island as well, but what a lovely fish. So my first target achieved. Let's hope we can get another one, and that's a little bit bigger would be nice, but I'm happy with that. Let's get him in the net. That was a really nice bite. It wasn't as quick as most of them. They normally go straight through the channel. This one actually swam towards me with the feeder. So it goes to show why you've got to keep a good bend in your tip, fish a heavier method feeder, and then if you do get a proper exaggerated drop back like I did, I wasn't going to miss it, just lift the rod up into it. But again, this is another fish. I'd say this is definitely a double figure fish. As I see, I'm giving the rod a lot, but the drag is set. Quite tight, but it's enough because I'm on strong gear. And we will go through the tackle and in a bit. Once I get this in, probably. But I've got lots of confidence in what I'm using, so. But it's a big fish. All the others have done their fighting in the channel, and this one's actually done its fighting in the deeper water. It's like a torpedo, isn't it? Look. Whoa. The size of that, Lloyd. Whoa, Jesus. That took some play, and that is one lovely looking fish. That's the second double figure fish of the day. We're going to put this one in the net, unlike the others which we've put back. This is probably twice the size. £12.5. So session's going quite well. We're halfway through the session, but I thought I'd use this opportunity not only to have a break, but also to run through my choice of tackle for today, method feeders, rods, reels, lines, etc. So let's go and have a look at that. Right, so the setup for today, the method feeder. So where I'm going to start actually with the very end tackle. So I'm going to start with the hook length. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've used a 4-inch hook length. Now, the actual hook length material is, in fact, the hook lengths are Guru. They're made by Guru. They're Guru 022 N gauge, and they're attached to a hair rig, where the band is kind of level with the gape of the hook. It's a size 12 hook. So we've used 8 and 10 mil pellets today. So like I said, we're targeting big fish. We don't want those smaller fish. And they've been absolutely brilliant today and not lost anything off those. Super strong. You've only really got to lift the rod up on those fish. And as you can see, there's a channel there where every fish apart from one has gone through. So I've got to try, it's like tug of war through a channel. So I'm really confident this tackle isn't going to let me down. So it's a 4-inch hook length. That then is attached to a Preston ICS system method feeder. And what that is it's on a stem. I can actually change that. If I want to change that to a lighter feeder, I can, just by unclipping that, sliding that feeder off, and that'll just come off, and then I can actually swap that to a 20 gram if I needed to on a venue that was bigger or deeper or windier and I was casting to further, longer distances with bigger rods. I can up it to 45 gram. So I'll just pop that back on there. So that's the actual method feeder itself, and that's attached at the bottom. So at the bottom of the main line, I've actually got a fast release. It's kind of like it's not a swivel, but it's kind of a connector, and you just pull that off, loop the actual hook length onto that. Now that then is attached to 8-pound Daiwa Hypersensor mainline, and I just twizzle that so the feeder's actually just basically sliding on about 3 inches, and there's a little knot. It's just enough to set the hook, as you can see. So that's just enough to set that hook. I then put a very soft, super tight, it's a little grommet, or it's like a sliding float stop, I think, or a line stop, I think they call them. And the reason why I use those is, again, if you get a bite and it does go past the knot, it just sets the hook and gives you that extra bit of buffer. And also when I'm loading the feed, and it just stops the feeder falling all the way down and sliding to the rod tip. And that's the actual mainline hook length method feeder. That's coupled, because I'm only fishing 22, 23 meters to the channel, that's coupled to a 10-foot rod. It's a fairly soft action tippy rod, but there's a hell of a lot of power in the middle. So I don't want anything too powerful that's going to be over, a bit too powerful, and it could potentially snap the lines and so on. I'm using all tear hooks out the fish's mouth. So it's a very, very simple setup. And like I said, I've used a 30 gram today, so it kind of sits on that shelf. And that's a very simple setup. The actual reel itself is a Daiwa TDR 3000 size 3012 reel. Very quick drag, which you need, so it's very fast when the fish pull off. Very quick to tighten up when I need to. A lot of winding power in there as well. Just a workhorse, never lets me down. So that's the very simple method feeder setup for today. I've got two rods, duplicate. One's clipped up where I clipped to the island, not the channel, and then one was, and then the other rod I've used for down the edge and then in the channel, because obviously what I don't want to do is clip up there, because I've got to let those fish pull the drag, otherwise I'm just going to get breaks or even potentially a rod break as well. So that's basically the two rods. Well, it hasn't been an easy day. I think this is fish number 11 and it'll be the last fish we get on the method. I've had at least 2 double figure fish, which I'm really happy with, and this probably isn't far off it. So it kind of just goes to show, even on a day like today where the fish are up on the top, you know, I mean, this is a nice fish as well. It's just, I think, just firing a few 8mm pellets out all the time, just trying to draw one fish in to get its head down, putting the bait on fairly tight as well, because it's in for quite a while. There's no 5-10 minute cast, it's like 15-20 minutes. So because it's so shallow, I don't want to cast too regularly. It's just a bigger feeder, and this is the last fish. Again, probably 8-9 pound, this fish. Like I said, they've all been big fish. They're very long fish. They haven't got much of a belly on them, but there you go. Nice fish. That's probably not far off 10 pound, that one. Let's get this fish to camera. That's last fish of the day on the method, and that's over 10 pounds. So it's a lovely mirror, really nice looking fish, very long, lean fish, fought like hell. But yeah, we're going to end the session on that one. That's fish number 11. I know we've got 3 fish over 10 pounds, including this one. I hope you've liked today's episode, and if you have liked what you've seen, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope to see you on the next one.